In the UK, we're broke. We're broke and we're being lied to every single day. There's this rhetoric that we're all in this together, that everyone's suffering equally, that the economy's just shrunk. But economics is a zero-sum game. There are winners and there are losers, and if we're losing then someone else is winning. The system is rigged. They have the wealth, they have the assets. They have multiple cars that cost more than the house you can't afford. But why? And how bad can it really be? Let's set the scene. You are the average person in the United Kingdom right now. How much money goes into your bank account on a monthly basis? And from that we can work out exactly how much disposable income you have. So let's take a look at the numbers. The median income in the United Kingdom per week is £640. That's around £33,000 a year for a full-time employee. This doesn't include part-time employees or those out of work. But that number means nothing. In the UK, we have a system called pay as you earn, which means the money that goes into your bank account is pre-deducted for things like national insurance, tax. So what actually goes into somebody's bank account if they're the average person? The most important number for someone every month is the number that drops into their bank account from the work they have performed. And for the average person within the UK who is a full-time employee, it will be around £2,200 a month. Now this is the money they get at the end of the month to pay all their bills, to buy their food, etc, etc. Now we've figured out exactly what people take in, we need to work out their disposable income, which is actually a whole new different ball game. Now incomes in the UK have been increasing. However, disposable incomes have not. Disposable incomes are what you actually have after you pay off all your bills and all your standardized expenses such as council tax, etc. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at what the average person probably spends in their bills and their council tax, and I'll break down why each number is what it is. Now on screen I've got an estimate for disposable income for the average UK person. We have an income of £2,200 after tax, as we discussed, a very reasonable rent figure of around £800 a month, which is on the lower side, I'd say, especially if you want something of your own. Room shares probably cheaper than that. This is probably like a one-bed flat. Council tax £85, which is the lower banding. Electricity bill £200 a month, very reasonable. Might have gone up from that. However, I think a one-bedroom flat, you could probably still get away with £200 a month electricity. Water bill, internet, food, you're looking at around £875 after all of that. Now my average person is very prudent. They've decided to save 40% of their disposable income. That means they save £350 a month. Now this is savings for possibly a house, an emergency fund, something like a holiday even, maybe a big purchase such as a car, which has other costs that I've not included. So this person's going for it. They're saving £350 a month, which is actually pretty respectable. Now the problem here is that means 60% of their budget, the disposable income, goes on leisure. So after all those conservative estimates, and I'm really trying to paint a better picture than actually exists here, because I don't want to sound like a downer, but this is the reality of the situation. People are broke because this is somebody who's doing all right in the UK. You probably have a degree if you're making above £30,000 a year in the UK. You're not on minimum wage. You probably work quite hard. You've probably done all right. You have £3 a day for transport, and you have £15 a day, if you round it up, for like life. You can't really do much with that. If you save, go out once a week, maybe you save all of that budget, you have £100 once a week to spend. You know, it's not the end of the world, but remember, this is people who are doing all right. This is the median person, somebody who's, you shouldn't really even need to worry too much, but you kind of do. If you don't budget properly, you spend too much one day, you're done. I haven't even taken into account various other things. Now let's think about some of these assumptions. Now in a scientific model, you make assumptions to make it easier to calculate or to explain or to understand what you're looking at. As a science graduate, I've taken into account some things that I probably haven't looked into and haven't included in my calculations that will most likely sway things in the direction of making people even broker than they currently are. No car, for example. If you have a car, you know, having a car in the UK is a flex.
Well, what colour's your Bugatti?
It's expensive to pay for road tax, it's expensive to pay for insurance, it's expensive to pay for fuel. Everything to do with cars is exceptionally expensive, and if you're in a place where you do need a car, in a rural community area or something like that, I have sympathy for you because it is difficult. No debt, no children, no daily commute, no student loan. Most people on 27k or more usually do have a degree and they start paying it back as well. I think the older loan stuff works slightly differently. It's a lower threshold, but let's look at 27k or more. You probably will be paying back a degree. Medical costs. There is this myth that there's no costs towards NHS treatment in the UK. There's no massive costs, but little costs do add up. You got to pay a few quid here for prescriptions. You got to pay about 30-40 quid every time you go to the dentist for the fee. I'm grateful that it's not a massive cost. However, it does add up. £40 is not a negligible amount of money, especially when your daily budget for life is £15 a day. That's 3 days of life gone. You know, you got to think about it in that sense. No pets. Pets are expensive. No pension costs. Usually in the UK, 2 to 6% of your salary is given up right at the get-go as part of the PAYE stuff. As pension costs, it's almost always worth it because there's kind of issues around tax that come into play. If you don't take that money, you're going to get taxed anyway. You might as well just give it up. However, there's an opportunity cost there. Is if you're paying into your pension, but then you're getting into debt, is it really worth it? No clothes, no subscriptions. Most people do have subscriptions. Obviously, I'm not going to include Netflix as a living cost because it isn't. But let's be real. People do want to have these things. You know, it's effectively the modern TV license Netflix is. So we've got our bog standard, run-of-the-mill person. And actually, a lot of the situations they're in are unrealistic. Most of the assumptions I've made are very, very, very conservative. And that saving figure of £350 per month is probably a lot higher than most people will ever be able to save, and that's all come at a cost. This person only has £18.50 a day to actually contribute to the United Kingdom's economy. We'll get to that bit at the end. However, what can this person do with the money they've saved? Most likely they're going to try and buy a house, and we'll discuss that in the next chapter. Horror stories don't scare me. Well, not most of them. Demons, ghosts, ghouls, I'm not afraid. I can fight them. There is one text that I've read recently that has brought fear to my heart, and that text is the house price index in the UK. The HPI allows us to see historical house price data as well as the current trends in house prices. And some of the actual data points taken on their own within this piece of information are absolutely horrific. For example, in June 2020, the average house price in the UK was £234,792. Fair enough. So let's find out exactly how things progressed. Let's see how things were 12 months later. Well, believe it or not, in exactly 12 months, in June 2021, the house price index showed that the average property in the UK was worth around £266,611. Exactly how much of a change? That is a delta of £31,819. What this means is the average house price appreciation is about the same as the median salary. At least it was for that point in time. That statistic should have scared you. And if it hasn't, you're one or two people. You don't understand the gravity of the situation, or you already have wealth and you're happy the way things are, which is fine. I get it. Every man for themselves. Inequality is growing. We are moving into a new age of feudalism, and if you haven't got the tickets to the front row seats, then you're just a jester performing for the master. We are paying more for less, and we are expected to be happy with it. There is change, but none of it is good. Our country is being pushed from one financial disaster to another. But why is this the case? Why is there no end to the problems? The answer is simple. To enjoy life, you need resources. Our resources are being held to ransom housing, healthcare, food, fuel, to name a few. Every single one of these is controlled and owned by people whose interests are in our perpetual serfdom. Those who fought in World War II were the giants on which our welfare state was built. They made sure that everyone had a chance to succeed and to thrive, no matter where they're from, no matter who they are. And those same giants would be in despair if they knew the state our economy is in today and the direction we are headed in. In the days of old, in the Middle Ages, feudalism was rife. People worked on land they didn't own to get food, to not die. It was a simple equation. You worked to not die. There was no acquiring of resources. There was no personal development. There was just work and death. Every single person of note, any name in the history books, is probably from a background far superior than yours today. These are people who are in the upper echelon of today's society. People who own things, people who have wealth, people who do not need to work. These are the people who succeed at our expense. It is a zero-sum game. We lose, they win. That is the only way it works. If you went to school in the United Kingdom, you've heard of a concept called the divine right of kings, where kings were given powers by the church. Well, in today's society, we have the political right of companies and corporate interests, where corporations are given concessions at the cost of the average working man. There is no way to defeat them. They run the show, they have the power, and we work. This is where the conspiracy theorists get it wrong. We are the economy, we do the work, we are the value, we can make changes. They need us, that's the truth.
I'm very glad. I'm glad the Matrix exists. I need people to wash my cars. I need people to serve me food. I need that.
That clip of Lord Voldemort is very telling. No matter how rich somebody becomes, no matter how much money one accumulates, there is still a dependence on greater society to provide them with the benefits of that wealth, like a blight that has spread from the roots upward. This disease has already decimated the most vulnerable in society. However, skilled workers such as nurses and more lower paid skilled staff are now being affected. In the future, days could come where even people such as doctors and engineers may be using food banks if the current trends are not reversed. The current UK tax system does not tax wealth to the extent it taxes income. This needs to change because currently the odds are not in our favour. I am now going to play a short clip from Gary's Economics, somebody who helped inspire me to make this channel, and also a fellow East Londoner who made it out the ghetto. Just from hearing the way he talks, he really gets it. He's not a fake. He genuinely knows the struggles of coming from a poor background. My G literally predicted the current situation in 2020.
Again, Rishi Sunak, my favourite guy. I really hope he'll be Prime Minister one day. If we consider his 40 million income, passive income that he gets every year from your mortgage payments, he will use that to buy the rest of the assets, which means that next year wealth inequality will be worse, which means that next year the payments, the cash flows from ordinary people to the rich will be higher, which means that wealth inequality will get worse still.